Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is Canada Infrastructure Program? It's big item. It's listed that it is about 9.3 million. So this is the money which the new water.
City of Vancouver?
Did we
Water
get
reservoir.
that for our treatment plant here?
We
I
need
think, yeah.
we need a new water reservoir. This is the money which we will be paid from.
No.
No? Why not? It is infrastructure.
The only grant we got for infrastructure is the Cold Bay Water Treatment Plant for
It's almost
3.9 million.
3.9 million
Yeah.
provincial.
What kind of treatment do we need?
For Cold Bay, it's actually a ceramic membrane filtration, so it's like pushing water through a ceramic cup.
Yes, and it is for some other part of the municipality.
So
Kobe,
yes, for Cold Bay. So we got that grant because it's actually enhancing the water. It's not upgrading the infrastructure. It's making the water better.
And from where is water coming?
From Cold Bay, it just comes from the lake,
From lake?
I see.
where all the kids swim.
Because in Tunstall we have the well.
That's right.
Don't need any treatment.
At this time, all you need is chlorine or sodium hypochlorite.
Okay.
But you know what? In well number 4A, which is your well where you take water out of the creek, it goes through 2 sand filters, and it goes through 3 membrane filters. It gets UV'd, and then it goes into your tank. So you do have treatment in your system.
Yes.
All the deep wells, it gets chlorinated and goes to your tank. But when you take it from the creek, the water has to be treated
Oh yes,
to a higher standard.
of course.
Can you taste the chlorine?
Yes.
Sometimes
Well, you know it's working.
Oh, I know, but that's why I have a taste and odor filter in my
That's
kitchen
why we all
sink.
have filters in our houses.
Yeah,
Shall we call the meeting to order?
well, that's, Roger's doing the information part, you get to do the LAC part.
Oh.
And it's not 7 o'clock yet. We have 5 minutes to go according to that clock.
It's
There's 2 people like that down the street.
Okay,
That was
Wait a couple
6:59
minutes for this to arrive.
fix the clock.
That's pretty close.
And the explosives creek is still gurgling, thank goodness.
Is it
Yeah,
still
it's
got
still
water
running.
in it? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, no, it's running.
So the fish are happy.
the donuts.
But I don't,
It's not that fun.
don't think you have to worry about fish pooping in the water, in the creek. I've heard about fish, but
Isn't that why they put in all those sort of rocks and ladders and stuff at the bottom?
well, sure.
We're hoping.
You're
We're
hoping?
hoping, 17 years of hoping so far.
Oh, so you guys haven't been out catching, did we? had the most delicious salmon the other night.
Was it caught legally?
Yeah, from a store. Not on the east side of Dalton Highway. Okay. Well, there's all my stuff. Chris is coming, isn't he? Would he have been on the ferry? Ferry he was in, I passed all the cars.
Oh, the ferry, yeah.
This is on the next one.
Now, Raj, so you got Peter Rankin
Yep.
and James Blackbird.
We just met, yes, we just introduced ourselves.
I should pay more attention.
So how's April's hip?
Hmm?
How is April's hip?
Oh, it's gonna be with her for quite a while. The arthritis doesn't go away very quickly, does it? It doesn't go away at
Well,
all.
but didn't she have some sort of hairline fracture in it or something?
Yeah, she's got 2 fractures of the vertebrae as a result of that fall, yeah. So she's not doing any high jumping anymore.
Lighter up,
Shall we
Raj.
get started then? Well, welcome everybody. So we're gonna start off with the information meeting for Tunstall Bay, the Tunstall Bay Neighborhood Municipal Water System, and then we'll Basically, Bob and I will do a joint presentation. I will focus on the financials and some general information, and Bob will get into the water quality reports. And then we'll conclude with questions and move into the LAC meeting. So today's meeting, what we're going to do is basically go over a few quick facts of the Tunstall Bay water system. We'll look at a consumption behavior graph, and then I'll go through the financial reports, the financial results of the previous year, 2017, our 5-year financial plan, and then Bob will address the water quality report. So in terms of the water system in Tunstall Bay, there were 128 connections at the beginning of the year of 2017. The water supply is from deep water wells. I believe it's 6 or 7 wells. Bob? That the 6 wells that the water is sourced from. The infrastructure was primarily built in the 1970s. And the way the charges work is there's an annual charge, fixed charge of $700 per residence and $420 per empty lot. And then there is a variable charge on water in 1,500 gallon increments. And bills are sent out on a quarterly basis. And what does that all mean? I kind of put it on a graph here. So basically, we had 126 households that were billed, and you can kind of see consumption is all over the place. Each number at the bottom represents a residential dwelling. Some customers consume quite a bit of water in comparison to others who consume less, but on average, a household consumed about 36,500 gallons on average between the period of February to January 2018, so in an 11-month
So there are
period.
3 actually very.
So those 3
high-
large ones, yeah, so that's what I was going to actually point out. This very large one over here is the pool.
Oh, okay.
And
What
so,
Tunstall Bay Pool?
the Tunstall Bay Pool, yes. And and what the green lines give you is an idea of what the water charge would be depending on your consumption. So the pool pays approximately $2,600 a year for water. Somebody who's consuming 36,500 gallons would probably pay about $800. That being said, most of the consumers are probably consuming a little bit less than that. And their water bill is probably in the $740, $750 range. The $800 is drawn up. I'm sorry, the average consumption is drawn up because of the high consumers over there. So that other household over there that is about 150,000 gallons a year is a high consumer, and they can expect their bill to be about $1,800 a year. So you can see that the tiered structure does require higher users to pay a little bit more water for their water.
1,800 a year.
Yes.
That's only 400 for the 3 months.
Or it would be on a quarter, every few months, yeah, about $450 or so. So jumping into the financial results for 2017. In 2017, we collected $117,000 in user fees. And the $117,000 in, so I'm looking at the second column here, in comparison to budgeted user fees of $118,000. $79,000 of that was used to pay for operating expenses of the water system, and $39,000 represented by the transfers outline was put into reserves. The difference between the 159 in expenses and the 118 up above would be the non-cash for amortization expense, and that's basically the bottom line number, kind of bottoms out through there. And that in a nutshell is basically we ended up putting about $16,000 less than budgeted into the reserves, and that was primarily due to there was a grant revenue anticipated when the 2017 budget was done of $10,000, which never materialized. So that didn't, it was going to be applied towards capital, so it didn't go into the reserve, and our operating expenses were about $6,000 higher than budgeted. So that's the $16,000 less that went into reserves. Any questions on the financial results?
Bill's budget 0 for amortization?
Yeah, we don't budget for amortizing, we don't budget for depreciation, I mean, there's, basically, we're just, it doesn't make sense to do that, because we're not charging, fees to recover the amortization, it's a non-cash expenditure.
For sure, yeah, I was wondering where those numbers kind of come from then, I guess.
The amortization number,
Yeah,
they're based on, TCA general accounting rules, so based on what's the different types of assets that are there and their useful life, accounting useful lives. In terms of the approved 5-year financial plan, basically a utility is self-funding, so user fees have to be ample to be able to pay for the expenditures of the water system. So what we've got is a 2018 plan approved by, well, the whole 5-year plan is approved by council, but the year-over-year expenditures this year were just used a 2% inflationary factor to right up to 2022. And you can see that basically your revenues are equal to your expenditures in the budget.
That bottom line, the transfers out is the money that you'll see in the next slide goes into the
Yeah,
capital
goes.
reserve fund, saving up for the tank.
So what we do for capital is everything that is collected for, basically, I mean, we put money into the reserves, and then all of our capital is funded from
Can I
balances.
have some short comment? What you showing there is totally useless. I could read it, when I will be sitting where the jury still is, I would be able to read it, but not from here.
your wife,
Come on up, we can review it.
it's right in here.
Yeah, there's a hard copy of what's on the screen right
Oh, I
there.
see,
Yeah.
okay.
I've got
Annual increase
Yeah,
is
so you
quite
can take
aggressive.
a moment, yeah.
And
Thank you.
118 to 122.
I think it's pretty conservative considering.
Based
I mean,
on
we used it
growth
to-
or?
pardon? It's based on well, your user fees are based on your anticipated increases in expenditures, and the anticipated increase in expenditures is based on the CPI, or inflation, of 2%.
Okay.
And in terms of the capital plan, in 2017, we spent a little bit on chlorine pump replacement, and we had some expenditures on the pre-design work for the reservoir upgrade. 2000, basically we spent $5,397 in 2017 in comparison to the budgeted expenditure of $195. So the reservoir upgrade redesign was pushed out a year, so we will, actually it's got an anticipated cost of about $350,000, and we anticipate we'll move it out an additional year, so 2019 will be revised to include 175. If we don't spend it, we don't take it out of the reserve. So nothing was taken out of the reserve in 2017, or essentially nothing. And so our 2018 capital plan has $201,000. We have a provision for pump replacements, but if they don't need to be replaced, then we don't spend that money, and it stays in the reserves until it's required to be spent. And in the outer years, from 2019 and 2022, is just a combined provision for replacement of equipment. We just haven't listed it out by individual pumps and whatnot. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Bob?
After the reservoir gets built, the next couple of years, you'll have to start replacing your pressure reducing. Remember, we built all the new vaults back in 2015, but the actual pressure reducing valves will have to be replaced. We'll like to do 1 or 2 each year, rather than trying to do them all at once.
So are you saying we need more than 12,000, which is sort of the catch-all in case a pump goes?
That'll likely be in 2019 or 2020, I'll push it out farther,
But we need more than $12,000.
likely.
The pressure reducing valves were installed based on 50,000 or 75,000 gallons?
Has nothing to do with volume, it's pressure.
pressure
from your elevation.
by way of the weight of the water?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at one stage, we had 75,000 when we had the wooden tank?
But the pressure don't change. The elevation of the water is still the same.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on.
They will have to be replaced coming down.
Is everybody gravity fed?
Yes.
So moving on from the capital results, or capital plan page is our reserve balances where our capital is funded from. So our opening balance for 2018 is 267,300, and we have a projected contribution to reserves in 2018 of 52,100, and projected use of our reserves 201 if we were to spend everything, which leaves us with 118 in the reserve balance for 2019. We do have an additional 175 that we're going to have to spend, but we have a contribution in 2019 of about 53,000 as well. So our reserve balances will be completely depleted, and we may have to look at some alternative funding source to complete the reservoir project. So whether that's internal borrowing or external borrowing, we'll be looking at that through the budget process. But we should be very close on our reserves. I mean, I'm thinking we should be able to handle it within our reserve balance, but our reserves will be depleted and have to be built up over time again. And with respect to the financial information, that's everything I have for you guys. The other part of the package was actually the drinking water quality report, which I had summarized in the quick facts, but there's, I mean, it's more detailed than that, and maybe I'll let Bob go through that. And
So, has everybody got a package?
Yeah.
We'll just leaf through the
This page.
package. So page 11 of 50. We have to do this annual report every year, because
So
of,
page 1 of 25 for them.
oh, they don't
Page
have.
1 of 25 on the
What's
bottom
11
center.
for 50 in the bottom right corner?
For you,
Oh,
not
for
for
me.
me.
Got it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Ta-da! There we go. The next page after that. Perfect. So it's the bottom center one.
Okay, so Vancouver Coastal Health, we have to actually produce one of these for each of the water systems. So a lot of it is pretty generic. The summary just talks about, on page 3, it talks about the connections. If you notice, we had 126. It's actually 128, so that's wrong on number A in the introduction. It just talks about how we actually look after the water systems, that we look after 7 different water systems, what staff is responsible for. And then if you go down to C, it talks about the description of how Tunstall Bay actually operates. Does anybody really care about that, or do you want me to explain anything about how the water?
Slows down.
So really, I'm gonna tell them anyway. I spent lots of time.
He's got a picture. Turn around,
All the
James.
wells actually, this is a really good system. So all the wells actually get pumped to the tank. A lot of the systems, they use a common line where it goes into the tank and out of the tank at the same time. This system, there's 2 2-inch lines that actually go into the tank. And then from the tank, it sits there and gets mixed, and then it goes back out to all the houses. That's a much better system than a lot of the other systems that they just plug it into the distribution system. So that part is very good. There's just 3 PRV stations to reduce the pressure coming out of the tank. And I might as well tell you, this isn't in our annual report, but the tank in the red will be your new tank, and it'll be hooked that way. So the water will go into the concrete tank, flow through to the new tank, and then it'll come out the new tank and back into the system.
When will be the new tank happen?
The electrical part and the road upgrade should be finished in the next 2 or 3 days.
Oh,
Then I have to wait for BC Hydro to connect from their box to the pole, which,
Who knows?
who knows? And then next week an RFQ will be sent out for the pipe work and the tank. And that will give us an accurate, how much it's gonna cost for the tank. Every time I keep calling, everything changes weekly because of steel and prices and tariffs and everything else, so.
And it's 50,000 gallons, is that right?
50,000, I've got the engineer to look at it, make sure 50,000 gallons is enough for FUS, Fire Underwriter Survey. Lots of times they change the rules, but with 50,000 gallons, that means you have 100,000 gallon in reserve. That should be enough. But we'll check it to make sure. I don't want to put a 50,000 gallon tank in and then next year they go, well, that's not enough. You should have had 60, so
How big's the other one?
50.
So you'll have 100.
Yeah, which is more than a lot of other systems.
Which is,
And with the new tanks, I was asked the question to ask you, is it going to be able to be either manually or automatically isolated, the new tank?
It will
Like
be
for
manually
firefighting-
isolated.
For firefighting, like if you need wildfire, like the question was, is that you able to isolate one tank for that, or is it just draining out of both at the same time?
It'll be set up so you can take out of one tank, out of both tanks, or each tank.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
You can't just have it so that it just drains both of them.
okay.
So are you asking because you don't want them to give, like if
Yeah.
the fire department starts taking water and we go, we still gotta keep 50,000 gallons kind of thing? Is that, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be set up so that that can't happen.
How much?
Shouldn't, but it could with all the other fires in the interior.
Knock on wood, please.
Yeah, touch wood.
So how much water does Tunstall Bay use on average in the summertime, just for general use, per day?
The tank cycles 4 times, so it draws actually 4 feet out of the one tank. It draws down a foot, starts a foot, so in one day it goes, so that'd be 4 feet.
And how many feet?
And the well is producing 10 gallons a minute at the same time it's drawn down and back up again.
So that's about a third of the tank then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
15, yeah, a quarter of the tank.
Yeah. So
I'm disappointed that, that's a nice diagram, but I expected the red,
To be in blue?
I expected the red one to be twice as big.
Well, that's,
So your addition is based on only 50,000 gallons.
yes.
But 100 in total?
Well, sure, how old would that tank be, 45 years old, something?
1970, yeah, 45 years old.
So, we're lucky to have a new tank. We won't be quite so lucky if the old one begins to show trouble. I'm really surprised and disappointed that we're not aiming for 100,000 right now.
Like assuming the old tank were on borrowed time.
Well, they don't last forever.
Right.
But with the new tanks, you can actually build, so the way you can increase that size if you want. So what happens is you build it from the bottom, so you go, oh, I need another 50,000 gallons. What they'll do is they'll lift it up, stick another ring in, lift it up, stick another ring in, to make your 100,000 gallons. That's how they increase tanks.
What's the
You know,
tank made out of?
Bolted steel.
Steel. Coming from,
It'd likely be a company, Western Tank and Lining, which is likely coming from the States, I would think. It'll go out for tender. There might be another company that will have a better price. And then we'll look at it from there. So you're looking for 100,000 gallons?
Absolutely. I based all my numbers and my discussions in past meetings on 100,000 gallons, yeah.
I will look at the cost.
Okay. So, we're a long way from getting a tank. I mean, if we decide tomorrow for 50,
Well, no, the RFQ goes out, the tank should be started this winter. It should be up and operating in the spring. Once the road, once you got all the electrical stuff, then You build a pad, and build some pipe work and put it in.
Any difference in the infrastructure requirements for 50 or 100,000?
Just a little bigger area, I guess. No, other than that, no.
So you get all this work done and then you look at the cost difference between 50 and 100,000, you're like, you know what, for the 30%, we could just put a bullet in this and put 100,000 tank on the ground.
Before it goes out for RFQ, I will let these guys know. And then, you know, it's gonna be more so, then it's a decision of, do you wanna borrow more money to do that?
Right.
Wow. Yeah, sorry, my target is quite different from what you're telling me now. That's disappointing. I thought the numbers were based on 100,000.
Well, let's see what Bob can,
Yeah.
comes up with.
Yeah, you guys don't wanna.
I agree with you, that definitely the larger amount, but definitely let's find out what those.
I'll give you a
cost.
price difference between 100,000 and 50,000.
Just as an aside, I am not an engineer, but putting another 50,000 on top of an existing 50,000, you'd have to have a huge base for that, wouldn't you?
It will be built for that anyways. It has to be built for seismic
Yeah.
nowadays, so
Mm.
they're designed for that. You tell them that right from the start.
But that old tank couldn't take another 50. Well, that's common.
No, the concrete one, no. Concrete is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to put a plan together for the next 6 or 8 years where we're drawing, fee for use from all the residents, where we could have just taken a little more salt. From
Yep, no, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't think I would, I'm not saying raise the rate.
But the one thing you have to look at is,
10 years, it would be painless as opposed to also going back and going, shoot, now we need a $50,000 tank to replace the concrete.
the one thing you have to remember is your usage based on your storage. If you get water sitting in there and you don't get that turnaround, then now all of a sudden now you're running into other problems. You're gonna have to re-chlorinate it and so it's not as easy as just going, let's just keep it there. Your water will get, that's the whole problem with too much. That's why the way I want it set up
And
is,
you couldn't regulate that, you couldn't run it at half full, 50% capacity, if that. I mean, the gentleman again is assuming that we're not going to, never going to need backup, and there's nothing out on the Cape to back them up, or back up the fire department.
yeah, you would never wanna run a tank half full.
If you would
Yeah,
just,
I'll check on the prices.
yeah,
and then-
you may need to keep the tank full for its integrity.
Yeah.
Why do you need to keep it full?
Because it'll just sit there and rust. Because
Oh,
you'll have
the
all,
open part,
the
yeah.
open part,
But don't they put a liner in there? Like liner?
still steel, even though it's
Well,
a,
maybe you just go right to, you use the other one, I think Jerry might have said this years ago, is use the other one as just firefighting, you have just extra water in case there's a fire or something. And then you use the 100,000 at 100% of the time, and the other one just sits there because it's concrete.
then you'd get, if that was a firefighting thing, because that water then, as soon as I take the concrete tank and start using it for firefighting, it goes to all your houses too. There's no two separate lines, right? Then you'll be on a boil water until we flush all the lines and
Where's the hydrant water come from?
that tank. There's not two separate lines for domestic and hydrants.
And really, 50,000 is all you really need during the winter. So those pumps are gonna be pumping water.
Yeah, we're not buying additional water for winter, that's right.
Yeah.
For maximum, we have to buy for maximum use. And take into consideration, there may be a fire and the other districts borrow money from, water from Tunstall Bay to fight fires other than in Tunstall Bay.
Yeah, there was a slight comment earlier about, the use of water for firefighting and could we control? Is that a reality? I mean, if you need the water for firefighting, are you not just gonna take it? It's gone, right? Doesn't matter. Everyone's on bottled water or whatever, right? Okay.
Yeah, but then there's a certain point, if you're fighting a fire, do you want to keep one guy's house from burning, or do you want to have 120 connections out of water?
Right,
Then you go, you know what, maybe you should be looking for water some other place.
right.
And you know what, Cape Roger Curtis, the fire department can take water from the ocean. That's,
Right.
or they can go to Tunstall Bay and get water, like, the trucks will draft out of the ocean. Like if there was a big fire, they would set up bladders and pump from the ocean, which we've done before, into the bladders and,
Because we had a conversation about it in 2016, about firefighting out there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking about it. So it's not really an issue, or as much of an issue as it.
no, like,
And the houses are all sprinklered out there, so the issue is.
I assume they are, I'm not sure.
I think so.
But yeah. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
So the treatment, our wells 1A and B, they have chlorinations, so it gets chlorinated and goes to the tank. Well number 4A, which comes out of the creek, actually goes through 2 sand filters, goes 3 membrane filters, gets UV'd, and then goes to the tank and chlorinated. So as soon as you start taking surface water, you have to do a lot more treatment. That's why the deeper wells those are the ones we like to use. 1A and B are usually our biggest producers, which is up by your place, not too far from your place. As soon as you come into Tunstall Bay on the right-hand side there. So then we go down to, it explains your water system, water quality, and page 5, and then you go to page 6. So we did 101 samples. There was no samples had coliform and no E. coli. So we didn't get any bad samples. That's why you never got a boil water order. If you look here, these are your, on page 7.
Yeah, I'm okay.
These are our number readings in 2017. The highest one we got on Tunstall Bay Boulevard is 105. The lowest is 0.02, and the average is 0.53. We try to get 0.2 parts per million. If you look, these samples have been taken the same time, so you can tell how much difficulty it is. You got a high usage in Tunstall Bay, your chlorine residuals go way up, where on white sails, they're like half the. So it's really hard when I'm trying to talk about tanks and trying to keep your chlorine, everything happy in your tanks. It's even harder when you're in the distribution system. Usually, you can tell if there's a leak. Like if white sail starts going as high as Tunstall Bay, we know that there's a leak in white sail somewhere, just because it's taking water from the tank so quick. And the white sails, the lowest was 0.05 and the average was 0.33. So when you talk about THNs and HAAs, that is a byproduct of chlorine. So there are some systems that have dirty water you have to add a lot more chlorine to. Your THNs and your HAAs go very high. So the safety limit, Canadian Drinking Water Guidelines, is 100 parts per billion, not million. And so in 2017, you have 35 parts per billion and 40 parts per billion. So you're well under your safety of your THMs and your HAAs. I can't say that for all the water systems.
So when you said there's the chlorine residuals go up when there's high usage, is the
Mhm.
counter thing when it's winter time and low usage, it's hard to keep chlorine residuals up?
That's right, that's why you'll see your sample taps. Like in the winter, if nobody's using any water, a sample tap gets turned on. We're trying to keep that flow going so we don't have zero chlorine residual. So I'm happy to report there were no significant events in 2017.
Can we have a hole or a crack in the road on white sails?
Oh yeah, but we just fix things like that. We don't really.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't major.
Yeah, no,
That was just a
no.
strip. Okay.
You see, this is where I got this 50,000 gallons, Jerry, but I will actually look at it again. So we didn't tear down, we tore down the hydrants last year, so we do that every 2 years, not every year. It's quite expensive for you guys, so we service them, but we don't do a complete tear down, we don't bring a company in. So next year we'll do them again. So we do it on the cycle of every 2 years. And The hydro, this is designed for electrical power for the storage tank. That should almost be done next week. It will be done. So in the future, for next year, a new tank. We still keep reading meters. We replace meters if we have to, and we will actually do the hydrant tear down again next year.
Is it complicated?
Likely takes about an hour and a half to do. You pull all the guts out. So every time you use a hydrant, like a fire department use a hydrant, you have to go service it. Because what happens is the hydrant has a plug on the bottom. So, when you turn, when you see the guys turn the hydrant, there's a big thread there that goes down and pushes the plunger down.
Yeah.
Water goes through. Well, when they're taking water, it's washing all the grease off all your parts.
Yeah.
So they close it, hydrant dries out, it sits there dry. Well, now it just rusts. So you want to keep it all lubed up. It's just sitting there in a wet environment. It's not water, but it's just moisture. So you want to keep that as lubed up as you can.
And it's cheap to service? Like so.
$150 a hydrant, something like that?
Do you have to bring somebody in
Yeah.
every time
Yeah.
they use a hydrant
No.
for practice?
No, if there's just one hydrant the fire department uses, we'll service it ourselves.
Okay,
But we bring a company in to do them all.
yeah.
That sounds cheap. Like
Yeah.
for labor that you may be paying
Well-
for your crew.
Yeah, it doesn't cost
They're not
anything
gonna be as
for
efficient
us.
necessarily with the, yeah.
Yeah.
Are some of the guys certified for hydrant inspection and tear?
They all are. So we did 2 flushings last year, April and October. And, this water, don't be alarmed when you see that water advisory in the paper. That's something that Vancouver Coastal Health makes us do 4 times a year. I think everybody does that. For the
Oh, the immune,
compromised immune system. So that's one of the things they always ask us to do, so we put that in the paper and on the website. And then from that, it's just our emergency response and our maps. And there's a little graph on chlorine residual. And I'm not sure why we have all these L1 and L2, but our Vancouver Coastal Health actually told us we had to put these in.
oh, yeah.
So if you go to page, I got 29 of 50.
29 out of 50.
Yeah. You can look, we do 2 raw water samples a year. So we take them before they get chlorinated or we take it out of the creek. So this one here is well number 5, or well number 4, sorry. So this is what water comes out of the creek. So you can look, it's greater than 200 parts per million of coliform, what we get out of the creek. So that's what the chlorine does after it gets sand filtered, UV'd and all that, and it's potable. So you don't get any positive samples. That's a really important one to make sure that it's running all the time, that you don't get a bad sample. And then we rotate your wells, so this is well 1A. You can see, you notice it with the deep wells, you should never have any coliform or E. coli. That means that something from the surface is getting into your well. And anything that's over the limit from the Canadian Drinking Water Guidelines will be highlighted. And then these are the reports for your THMs and your HAAs also.
That's the potable water, so that's after it's been treated.
After it's been treated, the THMs and the HAAs. And then emergency response.
Which hopefully you don't have to use.
Yes. That's really all I have to say. Any questions?
Good.
To get back to financial for a moment. I have a note here, September 9th, 2016. The Tunstall Bay residents' annual fees were increased by $100 a year. And semi-annual billing was introduced to spread the cost. Again, another $100 a year in 2012. So the Tunstall Bay residents, as of this particular date, September 2016, had contributed $112,500 into municipal funds for the replacement of our, well, not for the addition of a $100,000, we thought $100,000 tank. Could you tell me now how much is in that reserve fund?
Yeah, that was this right
That's
here.
behind you, Jerry.
We have 267,300
Okay.
as of the beginning of this year.
Okay.
And we anticipate another 52,000 contribution into that reserve in this year.
And that money, those contributions from users should have gone into a specific reserve fund.
Yeah,
Well, it is in the reserve fund.
Just your reserve fund, nobody else's.
yeah.
Tunstall Bay's
Tunstall Bay.
It's a
reserve.
Tunstall Bay Capital Reserve Fund essentially,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. So if anything happens in the district, a big blowout or some such thing, would funds be removed from that account to make whatever repairs are necessary in the event of a big leak or something like that? It's Tunstall Bay users' money that I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
They put in 200 and whatever of their own money. It's almost enough to,
So that reserve is designated for infrastructure improvements to the Tunstall Bay water system.
not specifically for the addition of a 100,000-gallon tank.
Not specifically for a $100,000 tank, no.
Right.
But, I mean, that is where the tank funds will come from.
Right. Yeah, so it's been, I think, emphasized right from the outset, going back many, many years, that this addition was specifically for additional water tanks, not for general purposes. I want to make that point, just so it's clear in everybody's mind. This is not, I suppose, municipal funds that the users have contributed.
No, it's your money,
That's
Tunstall Bay's money.
Right. And I think we want to be very concerned about its usage.
Well, it will be used for your capital works. Whether it's a tank, your pipe blew up and we had to fix that before we fixed your tank,
Yeah.
it has to be for Tunstall Bay. We can't go and put a tank in Blue Water. That isn't the way it works.
Okay, if we did not make those contributions, if the users did not make those contributions, and you had this big blowout, what would you do?
We would have to borrow the money and then turn around and, I assume,
Well,
you're the finance
You
guy.
would be paying for, Tunstall Bay would be paying for it if we borrowed the money. So
Okay.
it would become part of the operating expenditures of Tunstall Bay, and your water rates would go up to recover, because Tunstall Bay is a self-funding utility. So all of the funds to maintain the capital infrastructure and the operating funds will come from user fees that Tunstall Bay users pay. If for some, I mean, if we're looking long-term and there isn't enough money in reserves and we have to borrow, I mean, I'd have to go through the process, but the Tunstall Bay users would pay for the interest and principal of borrowing to fund any infrastructure that needs to be replaced.
Is that any different from any other district?
No, it's exactly the same in all municipalities.
All the water districts
Yeah.
are self-funding. That's right in the legislation.
Do other water districts on Bowen Island, my question, other water districts on Bowen Island, have they made the same contributions towards?
It all depends on what their capital needs are.
Yeah.
Some more, some less.
Yeah. See, our concern is we don't have a big lake like whoever it is.
Cove.
Other people do, other water districts have huge resources. We do not.
Yeah, but look at Bowen Bay. Bowen Bay has 3 wells and 50 users. They don't have, so when they pay for money for tanks, they can't build a big steel tank, they can't afford it, so they have 2 smaller tanks.
Right.
So you're not unique, everybody's in the same boat.
Would they have to borrow money? They obviously couldn't go back to their users. because-
Yeah, they do.
Hmm.
If they needed to borrow money, they would have to borrow money, but their rates will still go up.
Yeah, we, at meetings such as this over the past years, we've often discussed, right, Counselor, our ability to borrow money, but we've never been successful in doing that because there's always something else that's come up. And of course, the municipality can't just, has a limit as to what it can borrow.
There's a limit, and there's also a process you have to go through, and there's timing, and you need council approval, so there is a whole checklist
Right,
of items you have to go through
right,
before you go, as
Okay.
part of the borrowing process.
And it all depends on how much you have
And
to
how much,
borrow,
yeah.
what process.
right. Yeah, okay, I just want to emphasize that this is users' money we're dealing with here. And the reason that we did this was to get a 100,000 gallon tank we thought.
Okay, Jerry, I gotta say something here. So, in the meeting in September 24th, 2016, Kristen Watson, Manager of Finance, redraft proposal for tank replacement. Kristen Watson, Manager of Finance, provided a cost proposal for a 50,000 imperial gallon tank replacement for Tunstall Bay. Nothing that this document has been created, and it goes on like that. So that's where I don't have a problem putting a 100,000 gallon tank in. It's gonna cost you a lot more money, but I will look into both costs, and then,
Yeah,
We'll have another meeting.
okay, that's appreciated. Yeah,
so that, that's where I got the 50,000 gallon tank, because I thought you wanted 100,000 gallons total.
well,
But that's-
we do, but we want 100,000 in a new usable tank that is gonna unfortunately be subject to a blowout or something like that.
I can see Jerry's concern here, because the other tank
Is old.
went down, like the one that we're
Blew up.
replacing
25,000.
was in 2004, and now it's 2018.
What, how to blow up?
The old wooden.
Or
The
wooden
old,
tank.
the old 25,000 bucks.
So
Oh,
it's-
that old wood stave tank.
Well, so I'm just saying, so it took 15 years to get a new tank, so if you're saying we're putting up this new, and the old one blows out, it's not gonna be a year turnaround to get something fixed, so I can see it might be prudent to put $100,000 gallon tank in and
No.
use that one for,
I will check on both prices, you'll be quite surprised with a 100,000 gallon tank. That's a lot of water. What's that?
And how close the tanks are?
Price
Surprised
wise.
at what? Like surprised at the
Price.
huge jump in price?
Yeah. But we'll take a look.
Well, the other issue is that low chlorine residuals when you're not gonna be using.
That's
very
why I
much
needed,
water.
that even with the 250,000, that's why I needed mixers up there to actually have power to mix, keep mixing the water.
And actually, we did talk about this earlier in the meeting, that was that in the event of a replacement of a tank, like if the concrete one goes, we're gonna take movement with existing infrastructure to expand an expandable tank by putting more rings between the cap and
Yeah.
the base, and that would grow as we need it. So that could become a 70,000 tank in 2020 if we needed it, or 100,000 in 2019.
If you don't have the funding, it also allows you time to build up your reserves to be able to afford to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
You will get a price on both.
Yeah, and right now we don't need more than 100,000. Well,
I'm not gonna say anything.
who would have that answer? Who do we
Fire
use?
underway.
My personal opinion,
Yeah,
I would prep for another tank so it can be put in at any time.
yeah,
When you only draw down your tank now 1 foot
yeah.
every 4 times a day, so every 6 hours, and it gets filled up, that's not a lot of water being used. That's in the summer. Like I just checked last week.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a lot of water just sitting there. That's what concerns me. That's why I want mixers in there to keep the water turning over, because that water is gonna be sitting there for a long time. By the time the water gets in the one tank and it works its way around and gets to the other tank, it might be a week or 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Where that's not good for potable water. Great for firefighting,
Sure.
but bad for drinking water. So, trust me, I will get a price on both.
Thank you. Yeah, can't ask for more.
Exactly.
But what happens right now when Cove Bay joins up or butts into another water, like a private water system, like a Tunstall? Like, I don't know how far it goes up Eagle Cliff, but is there an Eagle Cliff?
There's an Eagle Cliff water system?
So then Cove Bay just ends there? Like, is it?
No,
There's a gap in between.
there's a gap in between.
Like, I live in that gap. I have a well. I don't belong to Cove Bay, and I don't belong to Eagle Cliff. There's likely, maybe a kilometer in between those two, or a half kilometer.
So what would happen if Cove Bay was to somehow join with that private water? Would that be like a redundant system? Would that be like a backup? Just,
You know what?
is it really
You may want to
complicated?
talk to Bowen Bay and King Edward Bay.
Why is that?
Because
We tried to do that, and they butt up one against the other, like Bowen Bay butts up against King Edward
Right.
Bay, and King Edward Bay butts up against Blue Water. And so we tried to work with the users to get them to agree to,
To join Cove Bay water?
no,
No, to
put
join
the
all
three
four
systems
yourself.
together.
Okay.
And they're one beside the other,
And they didn't want to.
they are abutted beside each other.
Right.
yeah.
It's not as easy as you think.
Right. No, I was just thinking since
But it would be.
wells
good
are
for-
probably, yeah, like a lake would be, Cove Bay water system is a pretty good system, right? And then it's apparently gonna be the best drinking water.
If you get a filtration system, yeah, it'll be some pretty good water.
Who else has a tank besides ourselves?
Well.
They all do.
They all have-
And how
Blue
many-
Water has a 18,000 gallon, Bowen Bay has a
Two
8,000 gallons.
2.5s or
I
2.8?
think they're 8s.
Yeah.
And
King Edward Bay?
King Edward Bay is, I think, 80 cubic meters. I don't know how many gallons that is.
Oh, I've been doing all that.
Multiplied by 2.5.
And Hood Point has a 50,000 gallon concrete tank. Cove Bay has nothing. Eagle Cliff has nothing.
And Hood Point has 98 users, right? So not that dissimilar from you guys.
I can send you the links to all the other information packages if you like in an email.
Okay, that was a big package you sent out. Thank you very much. I haven't read it all yet.
Are there any other questions for the information meeting before we move to the LAC? No?
I would like to know why the money should be borrowed, why we cannot get grant.
They've
Or
tried,
anything like that.
they've tried for grants before, for other water systems, and they've been told that you can't get a grant for just fixing your infrastructure, like for increasing your supply or something like that. If, say for instance, you were on a boil water and you wanted to build a treatment plant to make your water safer for the public, then you fall into this Canadian, all the grants and that. There's other grants you can get. But to get like, we can't get grants to fix the roads,
It's not fixing, it's something new.
but it's increasing your
It's
infrastructure.
not making the quality of your water any better. What they're trying to worry about now is there's a lot of communities that have substandard water. They can't drink it, they have to boil it and all this sort of stuff. And so when you read the federal infrastructure grants, they're wanting you to make things healthier for you. And an extra new tank isn't healthy. We applied for a grant to put the sewer pipes in the road for this expansion of the Snug Cove sewer. We didn't get that grant. So,
But this is essential.
but it's not making, but that's normal maintenance and repairs.
This is not the maintenance, it's something completely new.
But
But it's not required, you don't need additional capacity, you're building this tank to essentially replace an existing tank that may break down in the future. So you're really updating your infrastructure, or maintaining your infrastructure, you're not putting in new technology or, basically,
How many
Should
water-
we be putting in new tank? Is Tunstall Bay water good comparatively? Is it the best?
I'm not getting into who's got the best water.
Is there room for improvement? I don't know.
somebody ran a taste test. They had all the water systems blind taste tested at Bowfest or Canada a couple of times.
They'd all had a
Yeah.
few beers.
And I think yours came out fairly, the people with the wells came out better than the surface water.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, thank you.
I just got one action item then for Bob to do that.
Yeah.
Synopsis.
okay.
You're off the hook.
When you send out your RFQ, does that go like in the paper or? is that
Yeah, it'll go to BC bid.
Basically,
Yeah, I won't go into this local paper, nobody on the island would do that. It'll go to BC bid.
Nobody drank.
I'll try to break it apart. Well, I can call a
Okay.
tank company tomorrow and go, what's the cost of a 100,000 gallon, what's the cost of 50,000 gallon? There's a little more, like, the cost of the tank is one thing, is to build the bottom around it, this and that, because if you're gonna start with 100,000 gallon, you're gonna get something that's bigger in diameter.
Yeah.
And you build a 50,000 and you go, oh, I wanna increase it later, then it goes up, where, so,
Take a couple of minute break and then start the RFC set up and I'll just.
When is that?
sorry, I just assumed it was gonna be.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Well, it's good news at least.
What's that?
At least it's good news, there's tank coming,
Yeah. By the spring, there should be a new tank in there.
But, and I also agree with you, so let's see how much that 100,000 tank is worth.
Yeah. Are all water districts restricted as to the amount of water they used or encouraged to restrict?
Yep. Some people don't listen to it, but
Yeah,
that's,
right. Now, this large user here, or we saw on the graph earlier, what was the approach? Somebody approached them and.
oh yeah.
Oh, is that a leak?
Hey?
Or was that a leak that caused that?
The one would be the pool,
One would be the pool,
Yeah.
yeah.
and I think those other two were likely leaks. The one we've talked to them quite a few times, and they finally got it fixed now. The other one was a leak that we caught.
So those two big spikes, the 1800s, aren't
Yeah.
regular users, but there's other spikes.
Well, likely the shorter of the three will likely stay like that. They don't have a leak, they just, their ponds fill up and, the little flow switch quits and it just keeps filling water into the ocean.
Gives James something to think about. James is the president of the Tunstall Bay Community Association. He is a real gumbo guy. He wants to make a bigger swimming pool.
All right, that has
Put
nothing
a
to
cover
do.
over it, it'll help with evaporation.
Well, that concludes our information.